Hey, it's Coach Colin Castello with ShotMechanics.com, and welcome to another episode of the Ask Coach C series, where you ask the questions and I answer them for you. All right, first question up. Garrett42 asks, I have a national free throw contest coming up. How can I get better in the contest and in games? So right out of the gate, this is an awesome question. I actually have a video that I outline some of this stuff on. So I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. That way that you guys can get kind of a full comprehensive look at it. But there are a couple things that can help your free throws out. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your dominant foot is aligned in the center of the free throw line and not off center. So on most every free throw line that's ever created, there's a little nail or a dot right in the center of the free throw line that is aligned perfectly with the center of the rim. If you can find that dot and then put your dominant foot right in the middle of the dot, everything will be aligned. And basically your dominant foot is just the foot that's on the same hand or same side as your shooting arm. So if you're a right-handed shooter, your right foot's gonna be your dominant foot. So all you gotta do, line up that dominant foot in the center. That way you're shooting foot, knee, elbow, shoulder, and hip. Everything's in a straight line. So when you finish through towards the basket, the ball will fly straight. If your dominant foot's off center just a little bit, now you're out of alignment and you're already going to be missing just a couple inches off before you even let the shot go. So try to get that dominant foot right down the middle and that'll help you out a lot. The next thing you can do is think about staying on your toes, right? When you shoot free throws, you wanna rock up onto your toes and then pop up onto your toes. Now, most people don't like to jump on their free throws, so if you just rock up and kind of get up on your tippy toes just a little bit, that'll be a great way to transfer that momentum up through your shot, giving you that extra lift because a lot of people leave free throws short. So work on getting off your toes with just a little bit of spring. The next thing that can help is visualization. So every time I go to the free throw line, I like to kind of just take a second to pause, maybe it's while I'm doing my routine, and I picture my form being perfect in my mind, and I picture the ball having a perfect flight and just yakking nothing but net. So if you can visualize, sometimes that kind of helps preset your muscle memory as you're getting ready to shoot that free throw. So as you go to the line, doing your routine, in your brain, just visualize that perfect shot, whap, nothing but net every single time. So visualization can help a lot too. And the last thing that I think can really help with free throws is good rotation on the basketball. This is really important because a free throw is a stationary shot. You're not moving forward, you're not moving backward, you're not transferring as much momentum through your body on the shot. If you can have good rotation on the ball, when it hits the rim, it's gonna have a lot better touch. You probably have seen those guys, you might even be one of those guys who maybe hits the rim on 80% of their free throws, but still hits 85% of the free throws, right? You know those guys that they hit the rim, and every time the ball just kind of hits the rim, it just blip, blip, dies and goes right in. And that comes with really great rotation because it slows the velocity of the ball, it hits the rim, gives that nice soft shooter's touch. So probably the best way to get rotation is to make sure that your fingers are in the seams of the basketball when you're getting ready to shoot. So you do your routine, take just a second to pause, make sure your dominant finger's directly in the seam of the basketball. That way when it comes off your finger, you get a good snap, good backspin. But great question. So those things will help you out. Also, link to the video down below. You can check out our little free throw secrets there. All right, next question comes from Owen Ward, and he says, I got one question. What should I aim for when I shoot a basketball? I hear different things, but I like to aim for the back of the rim. All right, phenomenal question here, and one that I get a lot, actually. And it really kind of depends on the shooter, and it's a comfort thing. A lot of shooting coaches kind of do this thing where they're like, well, you have to aim at the front, or you have to aim at the back. It really doesn't matter. What I would do is I would try a few, see what feels comfortable, and see what gives you the best results. Because not everybody is going to have the exact same comfort level when it comes to finding a target. Some people find it really hard to find a really specific target. So there's a few different things you can do. Kind of the two of the most popular ones I would say would be aiming at the front of the rim or aiming at the back of the rim. I hear a lot of shooting coaches say this. I hear a lot of players say that they do this. And so the idea is you find, the eyelet on the front of the rim or the eyelet on the back of the rim and aim for that. Now the problem with this, at least that I see, is that if you hit your target perfectly, if you have a perfect shot and you hit your target perfectly, you might miss the shot, right? Because if you're aiming for that front eyelet and you have a perfect shot on it, it might bounce off of the rim, right? So I've heard some people say that they soften their focus a little bit and aim for kind of the center of the hoop and just kind of a general area, and that can work too. What I find works best for me, and it might work for you, it might not, is to aim about 2 to 3 inches below the back of the rim. So if you're looking at the back iron, about 2 to 3 inches below that is where I try to put the ball. Because I think of it like this: if I can hit that spot every single time, the ball's going to go into the basket, right? If I miss that spot by an inch or two, the ball's still gonna go into the basket. So So by aiming at that spot that's 2 to 3 inches below the back of the rim, it still allows a little bit of margin of error for the ball to go in the basket. So totally up to you. I'd experiment with a few different things and see what feels comfortable, because what works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for me. So experiment, see what works for you. All right, next question comes from Draco6711, and he says, hey coach, I'm 11. When I shoot, I kind of have an inconsistent shot. Sometimes I have a V shape in my elbow, like Steph Curry, and sometimes I have a triple 90 shot like KD. They're both comfortable the same, so which one would help me in the long run? All right, I'm really glad you brought this up, because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I even sent an email out just the other day about it. This V versus this L shape on your shooting arm. Now, I recently, with the Up My Game app that we talked about a couple episodes back, I recently did like close to 100 probably shot analysis for free on there. And I would say the number one thing that's wrong with a lot of kids' shots is that they have a 2-motion shot that's causing really, really flat arcs, so they're hitting the back of the iron and limiting their target space on the rim. So what we're talking about is here, as you bring the ball up into your shot, right? Generally, the optimal set point is going to have what we call the triple 90. So you have the 90 degree here at your wrist, 90 degree at your elbow, and then 90 degree down here at your armpit. Some people, depending on their bodies and depending on how their torsos are built and how long their arms are, to get to this set point by their eyebrow, their arm has to come further back in a V. Guys like Damian Lillard do this a lot. And Steph Curry does it a little bit. So the thing about this is, as long as you're keeping the set point somewhere around your forehead or your eyebrow, it's okay to have a V in your arm, because it's still going to be a 1-motion shot going forward. Where you want to be really careful about having the V in your arm is if it's bringing the ball above the crown of your head or back to the center of your head over here. If you start to get a V this direction with the ball over the center of your head, it's going to turn your shot into a 2-motion shot, meaning it goes back, then forward, and it's going to come out really, really flat most of the time, and it's going to kill your shooting percentage, because the better arc the ball has, well, there's kind of an optimal arc. If you get optimal arc, the ball sees a target on the rim like this, right? A pretty big surface area. You can think if the ball's coming out flat with that 2-motion shot, it's going to be really small. You're going to see something kind of like this with the rim, right? So you have a much smaller target to hit with a flat trajectory than an optimal trajectory. And that's the big thing, is with that V, if you got that V going, the flat trajectory is going to kind of make it a little bit difficult. But if it works and it stays in front of your forehead, I'd stick with whatever gives you the best results. What I'd probably do is I'd take a video of yourself, or I'd take a picture of yourself, see where that set point's at, and then determine which one's going to work better for you, and then work with it from there. All right, so the next question comes from Drew Thrower, and he says, hey Coach C, I'm the best shooter on my team, but my coach is always telling me my shot needs more rotation. Does it matter that much? And if so, how could I improve it? All right, great question. We kind of touched on just a little bit of it with that free throw question earlier, but there's a whole lot more stuff to it that I want to go over. So number one, it is important. But with that being said, I've known great shooters and great scorers that don't have that great of ball rotation. So it's not the be-all, end-all. If you're shooting straight and you're hitting your target, it doesn't matter how much ball rotation's on it. So it's not the be-all, end-all of shooting, but it's something that great shooters generally focus on at least a little bit. And it's really, really important for touch. And the reason why is this. As the ball's spinning backwards, it's slowing the velocity of the ball, so it's not going to hit the rim as fast. So a lot of times guys that have bad rotation, when they miss off the rim, you see they do those bricks where it just slams off the rim and shoots off the opposite direction. Whereas guys that are good shooters and have good rotation, when it hits the rim, maybe it does that kind of soft little bounce, maybe it dives right off the front, maybe it falls in, right? And that's because the ball's slowing its trajectory or slowing its speed on the way to the basket. And so when it hits, it's not going to come off near as hard. So you're going to get a lot more rolls, a lot more friendly touches. The other thing that's good for is if it does kind of hit the rim and it's spinning backwards, especially if it hits the backside of the rim, it's going to kind of kick it down into the basket. So generally your shooting percentage is going to go up if you have good touch and good ball rotation. But with that being said, if you're hitting shots without it, it's really not that big of a deal. So just kind of keep that in mind. I wouldn't throw away your entire shot if you're a good shooter and you're hitting a lot of shots. I wouldn't throw away the entire shot just because your coach says you don't have good rotation. I would say it kind of depends on your shooting percentage and if it's worth tweaking. So a couple things. Number one, like we talked about before on the free throw shooting, find those seams. The best shooters in the game, when they catch the ball, they're able to rotate it in their hands and find their seams so they can put their fingers directly in it. That way when you snap, it's got that little extra kick to the ball to give it that backspin. So number one, find the seams. Number 2, finish with your dominant finger to the floor. Now you might be an index finger shooter or a middle finger shooter or a piece shooter. Whatever it is, you want to finish so your follow through is pointed towards the ground. So I'm a middle finger shooter, so generally I finish like this. Middle finger to the ground, and then these 2 fingers, my ring and my index finger, are kind of sort of down. That's because as the ball comes off my middle finger, I'm snapping it off the seams, down to the ground, giving that good backspin. A lot of times kids have what I like to call the caster, where they're kind of casting the ball at the hoop. So their follow through is more like this, where their fingers are pointing towards the back of the rim. And so what that does is it doesn't give that extra kick off of the ball to get their touch. So yeah, number 1, find the seams. Number 2, finish with your dominant finger to the floor. If you do those 2 things, you're probably gonna get pretty good rotation. Now, if you wanna take it even another step, you can think about snapping your wrist. So as you lock your wrist coming into your shot, you wanna snap it forward. And that combined with the seams and with the fingers to the floor will give you probably as much backspin as you're ever gonna need. Don't forget, if you're new to Shot Mechanics, you're gonna wanna hit that subscribe button because we put out 4 to 5 videos every week and they're gonna get you better, I guarantee it. Number 2, you're gonna wanna hit that link in the description or the annotation for a free copy of our top 3 favorite shooting secrets. These are shooting secrets a lot like the stuff that we talk about that you can plug directly into your game and probably increase your shooting percentage overnight. Seriously, I have had kids tell me that within 5 minutes of these free kind of mechanics, their game has taken a jump to the next level. So check those out. All right, and lastly, I love these questions that you guys are asking. You guys have got some great questions, and I can already tell that this is helping you guys out. And a lot of you are getting better just from watching this Coach C series, so it's really cool. So don't forget, if you have a question, leave it in the comment section down below, and it might get featured next week. Generally, I mean, I wish I had more time because there's so many of these questions that are just awesome. So I'm gonna keep doing as many of them as I can, and we're gonna keep learning and getting better. Again, I'm Coach Colin Castello with ShotMechanics.com. Thank you so much for being in the Splash Army, and I'll see you next time.